In this lesson, we're going to discuss symmetric and asymmetric encryption. Now, every encryption cipher is categorized as either symmetric or asymmetric based on the algorithm they use and the type of key that's going to be used to secure the data. Now, when you're using symmetric key encryption, you're going to have a single key that's used to encrypt and decrypt that data. With asymmetric encryption, though, you're going to use two different keys, one key to encrypt the data and a second key to decrypt that data. Now, symmetric key algorithms are often called private key encryption or private key algorithms because of the fact that both the sender and the receiver need to know the same shared secret, and this is that privately held key. Now, in symmetric key encryption, this is a fairly easy concept for us to understand because most of us use it on a daily basis. I mean, after all, when you go home tonight and unlock the front door to your house, you're actually using symmetric key encryption to do it. Basically, you're using the exact same key that your spouse and your roommate or anybody else will have to be able to unlock and open your door. Now, if you wanted me to be able to get into your house, you have to give me an exact same copy of the key in your pocket. That way, we both have the exact same private key, and we can both unlock or lock your house as needed to get in and out. This is our shared secret key. Now, due to the fact that we have this shared secret key, we can make sure that there is confidentiality of all the items inside of your house, because only the people who you give this key to are going to be able to open the door and get inside. But you can't be assured of non-repudiation, because if somebody is able to go into your house, like your spouse or your roommate, or even me because you gave me a key, and one of us took your laptop because you weren't home, you're not going to know who took that laptop. All you know is that that laptop is gone. Now, it could be any of us because we all have the same copy of that shared secret key. Your spouse, your roommate, you, and even me, we all have that key. Now, a lot of us have a copy of that key, which means that any of us could have gone in and taken that laptop. Now, beyond the challenge of proving who used the key, there's also another big challenge when we deal with symmetric algorithms, and that is the distribution of that shared secret key. So, if you wanted to encrypt an email and send it to your 5 closest friends, each of you would have to have a set of shared secret keys set up for each one of those pairs. That way, we'd have 5 different pairs of keys, one for you and one for each of your 5 friends. Now, if every one of those friends also want to be able to share things with each other, they're going to have another set of keys for each of those 5 friends. And in fact, this means we're going to have 15 sets of different keys that are required so that everybody can communicate with everybody else. This means that for every 2 people, we each are going to have our own set of individual keys. Now, for the same reason that peer-to-peer connections become untenable at large scale, you're going to see the same thing happen here when you're dealing with symmetric keys, because as you get larger numbers and more users, you need to share that secret among more people, and this means you have a big distribution problem on your hands to be able to distribute all of these shared secret keys. Now, most wireless networks used in small business or home office networks are going to utilize a shared secret key in the form of a Wi-Fi password. So, if I go over to your house this weekend for a big party and you have 50 of your closest friends over, and you have to give them all that same shared secret key, which is the password to get access to your network, now we have no confidentiality at all, because so many people know that shared secret key, and at this point, any one of the 50 people could have been looking at the information on that network. And that really is the big problem when you start dealing with symmetric key encryption. You have to figure out how are you going to protect this shared secret, and how are you going to distribute it at scale for all the people who need access to that data. This brings us to our second category that we use for encryption ciphers, which is known as asymmetric algorithms. Now, unlike symmetric algorithms, asymmetric algorithms do not require a shared secret key. And for this reason, we often refer to this as public key cryptography. Now, with asymmetric algorithms, we are going to use 2 separate keys. One key is going to be used to encrypt the data, and another key is going to be used to decrypt the data. Now, the most commonly used forms of asymmetric algorithms are going to be things like the Diffie-Hellman algorithm, RSA, and the elliptic curve cryptography known as ECC. Now, when we compare symmetric and asymmetric algorithms, you may be wondering which one is better, because it sounds like there's a lot of problems with symmetric encryption, right? Well, this really is a hard thing to discuss because there is no pure answer where it's going to be great 100% of the time to use symmetric or asymmetric, because both have been designed for different purposes and they have different benefits. For example, symmetric algorithms are very popular because they tend to be about 100 to 1,000 times faster than an equivalently secure asymmetric algorithm. But asymmetric algorithms do allow us to overcome that key distribution challenge that we face with symmetric algorithms. Therefore, both of them have a place in our networks. Now, as with most things in cybersecurity, you're going to see that we can take the best of both worlds by combining these into a hybrid approach. Now, to overcome the key distribution problem, for example, most implementations are going to use asymmetric or public key encryption to be able to encrypt and share a shared secret key or private key that can then be used for symmetric encryption to secure the bulk of the data transfer that's going to happen between a sender and a receiver now that they have the same shared secret. And now they're going to be able to pass information back and forth much faster than they could if they used asymmetric algorithms by themselves. This type of a hybrid approach really does give you the best of both worlds. Now, in addition to classifying algorithms as either symmetric or asymmetric based on their key and algorithm type, we can also categorize an algorithm as either a stream or a block cipher based on the mathematical algorithm that they're going to be using to do their encryption and decryption processes. Now, a stream cipher performs their computations and encryptions a single byte at a time. This makes it a bit-by-bit process, and they utilize a key stream generator to create a bit stream that's going to be mixed with the input plaintext using a mathematically exclusive OR function, known as an XOR function. This will be used to create the encrypted ciphertext that is going to be there to store your data in. Now, because these stream ciphers can perform bit-by-bit encryption, they are very well suited for securing real-time communication data streams like streaming audio or streaming video. Now, stream ciphers also tend to be symmetric algorithms, and they use the same key for both encryption and decryption. Now, the second type we have is what's known as a block cipher. A block cipher is going to be able to break the input into fixed-length blocks of data before performing their encryption functions. For example, if you had a message that was 1 kilobyte in size, we could break that up into 16 blocks of 64 bytes each. Each of these 16 blocks could then be processed by the cipher and then output out the other side of this algorithm the block of ciphertext that we're expecting. If your message is less than 64 bytes, then we'll use extra padding that's going to be added to the data prior to it going through the encryption to make sure it is a full 64-byte chunk. Now, block ciphers in general have several advantages over a stream cipher, including being easier to set up and implement and being less susceptible to security problems. Block ciphers are also easily implemented through software solutions, whereas most stream ciphers tend to be used in hardware-based solutions. So remember, symmetric encryption is a method of encryption where the same key is used for both the encryption and decryption of data. Asymmetric encryption, on the other hand, is a system of encryption in which two different keys are used, one for encryption and one for decryption. There are also two different types of ciphers that we can use. These are stream ciphers and block ciphers. A stream cipher is an encryption algorithm that encrypts data bit by bit or byte by byte in a continuous stream. A block cipher, on the other hand, is an encryption algorithm that encrypts data in fixed-size blocks that are typically sized as 64, 128, or 256 bits in a block, rather than doing 1 bit at a time. We can then use these basic categorizations of symmetric, asymmetric, stream, and block ciphers to be able to help group our different encryption technologies into these different categories for easier reference as we're working out in the field as cybersecurity professionals.